Premier, should people have concerns about the way that Justice Williams was appointed?
No, if you look at the committee, the recommendations put to the committee, that they would put together a list of recommendations that would come forward to the Minister of Justice. They followed the process. Chief Justice Williams has been in this position for 5 years. He opened it up. She was reappointed.
Justice McDonald obviously has had some concerns about the way this whole thing played out. Is your sense that this is simply a disagreement of interpretation between him and government lawyers here, or should we be putting a lot of stock in Justice McDonald given whom he is?
Well, I consider they followed the process. I don't know clearly if you read the terms of reference what was asked of the committee. That's all we asked of the committee, was to put forward the list of names. The minister went through it. There was a recommendation made, and we appointed Chief Justice Williams, who's done an outstanding job. I find it quite interesting that someone who's been doing this job for 5 years, done a tremendous amount of work, impeccable credentials. I'm assuming people don't believe she should be Chief Justice. We believe she should.
Premier, have you had any discussions with retired Justice McDonald about his decision to step away from this committee?
Not at all, no. I've seen him a number of times, but no, not at all. I just seen him twice.
Have you ever had any conversations with him about the reasons for the timing of his retirement?
No, not at all. I have Chief Justice McDonald and I had met a few times, really talking about the judiciary wanting to come in to present to cabinet, talking about legislation, but talking about he felt there was a better way for the judiciary and the executive council to look at how we do laws. But no, not at all. I haven't talked to him at all.
What's the authority of the committee if you don't accept the recommendation? Presumably, you appoint the committee so they can make a choice. You'll say, sure.
No, we appointed the committee to put together a list. It clearly says in terms of reference, 3 no more than 6. Obviously, they didn't have 3 applicants; they had 2. But that's clearly was in the mandate given to that committee. You all saw what happened when we struck the committee around Boundaries Commission. We didn't follow it. What we asked was to follow the regulations that are there in the committee. That's what was asked, and that's what was done.
Clearly, Justice McDonald didn't see it that way. Are you familiar with the letter that he wrote to the Justice Minister?
I haven't seen it. I saw it today.
You heard it read in there. Are you concerned? Obviously, he's interpreting it in the opposite way that you are.
It's not left for interpretation. It's clearly written. It's clearly written. I don't know. I don't think the law is left for interpretation. It's left actually to be clearly written there. The Minister of Justice followed the process, and he made a recommendation to the Executive Council, and we supported it.
Justice McDonald wrote, "The recent recruitment committee process for the appointment of the Chief Judge of the Provincial and Family Court judge has undermined his role on that committee, and for that reason he can no longer be involved in future appointments." Does that give you any pause?
I'm not sure why he would, what that would be the case. That's a better question for him. The reality of it is, if you follow the recommendations that were put out, if you look at the process, there was to be a list brought forward. It clearly says the numbers, not fewer than 3, not fewer than 3 if possible, and no more than 6.
So
that process has been followed. By the way, that process was in place before our government. That's how Chief Williams was appointed the first time.
When Nova Scotians read what he's written today and tomorrow, how would you suggest that they should interpret what he's writing?
I don't know what his rationale or reasoning behind that was. I can tell you, the process was followed, was put out there. So the minister clearly said today in this House he could have reappointed Chief Justice Williams without the committee, without striking that committee. What we did is we went back in to the pool, we laid out and asked for and clearly in the recommendations it talks about what you need to do. Clearly, it didn't say one name, it said forward us with some information around the candidates.
It also does say to rank them, does it not?
Well, clearly, but when you bring them over and send them to us as a committee, you look at it as totality. So that's important. That's all we asked them for.
What makes the current Chief Justice the person for the job?
She's done an outstanding job for the last 5 years. It was under her leadership, along with Chief Penny McCord, that we brought the first wellness court into this province. I remember very clearly sitting in my boardroom when they came forward, both of those with the chiefs of the Aboriginal community, talking about the fact the judiciary is not working with the Aboriginal communities. It was that leadership with Chief Justice Williams who actually encouraged members of her court to bring forward these ideas. She's been working diligently on the Home for Colour Children, as member ensured, recognizing that the the judiciary wasn't working for African Nova Scotians. And how do we make sure that we continue to go forward and continue to make sure that everyone sees themselves reflected and feels supported by the judiciary? So she's done a tremendous job for 5 years, and we have reappointed her.
Is there a particular reason why the government just did not want to appoint Judge Alana Murphy?
I don't even know Judge Murphy. I don't know. The recommendation was brought forward to us as to me as the part of the executive council to reappoint Chief Judge Williams, and we reappointed him.
Point of clarification, so you're saying you got a list that ranks it, but you're not obligated under the process to go by the rankings? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. But the issue would be that what we did is we had, if you look at the terms of reference, it talks about presenting a list. And what we received were, the minister received, and he looked for the information around those people, and then he made a recommendation to the executive council, which we accepted.
Premier, how do you feel your minister has handled this particular file?
Oh, Minister Fury's been outstanding. He's been a tremendous Minister of Justice and Attorney General. I'm very proud to not only call him a colleague, but a friend. I would put his integrity against anyone who comes. He's spent an entire career applying the law in this province as a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in senior positions. He's worked in a number of ministries in government, and every time that I've had an opportunity or an interaction with the Minister Fury, it has always been at the highest level.
And how do you feel about the characterization by Mr. Houston trying to draw a parallel between this particular incident and what's happening in Ottawa?
Listen, he's an opposition leader. He's doing his best to be noticed. That's how it goes. The opposition leaders attempt to do that. I think it's a big stretch when you start impugning the integrity of members of this House. And quite frankly, a competent provincial court judge whose reputation he's attempting to impugn on the floor of the House.
Thanks, Peter.